Hi, my name is Eric Richardson, and today I'll be talking to you about the field of programming. Programmers are also known as programmer analysts, developers, software developers, computer scientists, software engineers, and at a more senior level, architects. Now, computers have fundamentally changed our lives and the world around us, from the smartphones that we carry around in our pockets, what you might be watching this video on, and the internet, to devices embedded in our homes like smart appliances and TVs and game consoles and toys, to the cars that we drive. And computers have fundamentally changed the way that we do things. They've changed the way we shop, the way we travel, the way we cure diseases, the ways that we are educated. They even have changed the way that we farm. And so I would be hard pressed to think of an industry or a part of life that has not been heavily impacted by the advent of the computer. And so we need programmers to program those systems and computers so that they do the things we need them to do. So you might be wondering what education or training you need to become a programmer. And that's an interesting question, because there's the standard typical route, and then there's some other alternatives. Nothing is preventing you from pausing right now and, assuming you have access to a computer and the internet, trying out some programming, because you'd have all the tools you need, because there's actually free courses out there. There's a website called code.org, which focuses on early education for programming in schools, and Codecademy and Code Wars, and any number of websites out there that offer free training for beginning programming, at least. But the traditional path to becoming a programmer and making that a career is your typical 4-year college approach, which means you're going to want to have decent grades so that you can get into a good college, get into a good computer science program. And that degree, a 4-year degree in computer science, will ready you for the field and put you in a good position to get a job starting out. Some people go on to get a master's degree or a doctorate. And I've seen some jobs where a master's degree would really help, that kind of thing. But under most conditions, most cases, most jobs, usually they're looking for a 4-year degree in computer science. Now, there's also 2-year programs out there, like focused tech schools that focus on just that aspect of it. Now, you're not going to get the general college experience. A general 4-year degree is going to include some general education, and I don't want to undermine the importance of those things, because the other tools besides specific to programming that you carry on, that you take to your job and your career, are things that are going to help you excel in those jobs. If you learn about business, if you learn about other things like, say, science or math or something like that, you can leverage that at your new job potentially. So I think that's a great approach. Tech colleges, or maybe if you want to get through in a quicker amount of time, that's something that you can do that will focus strictly on the technical aspects. I'm not sure if you'll have quite as easy a time getting competing in the workspace, but once you've got your first job or two under your belt, that becomes easier, and that becomes less of a factor ongoing in your career. There's also some short programs out there that you might see that are like 12 weeks to become a web programmer or something like that. Those are going to be very specific to that particular set of skills. It's not going to give you a general education. You simply can't fit 2 or 4 years or more of education into a 12-week period. So you're going to be leaving things out, like the general aspects of software engineering and good programming. So I usually think of those more as being able to pick up a specific skill. If that one thing is what you want to do, or need, that you want that one particular skill, I might take a 12-week course in something so I can pick up a new language or a new platform or technology. I wouldn't necessarily think of those as a general purpose. This is how you become a programmer. So to recap, the typical approach is your 4-year college degree in computer science or software engineering or something with a name similar, with some other people choosing to go the route of like a technical degree, a technical college, like a 2-year degree, something like that. Now, what about pay, you're probably wondering, and the growth of that job sector. I mean, no concerns there in terms of job availability at the moment. I mean, simply speaking, it's a growing field. It's only expanding. at this point. So you're great in that regards. In terms of pay, it's also a fairly lucrative career to take on. I didn't know this personally, but I looked the numbers up on a website. Now I don't know how this relates to location, because you're going to get paid more in Silicon Valley than you will in Ohio or something like that, cost of living. But the website said that the average programmer was making $63,903 in 2020. But with that range being somewhere in the $50,000 to $85,000 range. Now I looked up, at the same time, I looked up software engineer because I was intrigued about that, and the range for that was $70,000 to $140,000. So you might see why I like to consider myself a software engineer more than a programmer. I think that must imply some of the additional stuff that goes into developing software in terms of the rigorous process and things like that. But yeah, there's good money to be made, and who knows, you could be the next Bill Gates or something like that. So I don't go into this blind and think that that's for sure what's going to happen. You're not going to necessarily be the next person to invent the next Facebook or Instagram or something like that and become rich overnight. Same as any industry, those are some people that got lucky, maybe had some exceptional skill, but the norm is what I was talking about. So what kind of skills personally do you need to have to make a go of it in the field of programming? I've thought about this a lot, and I think one of the things that you need to have is a good, sound, analytical mind. You like to solve problems, because a lot of what you're doing as a programmer is problem solving. You take a big problem, you break it up into smaller problems, and then you figure out how to solve those little problems and add it all up to a solution. And you're constantly doing that in programming. Or if you're not creating new software or programming something to do something new, you're troubleshooting an existing problem, which requires those same skill sets to diagnose a problem of figuring out how to break it down into exactly what's going on, where the problem might be, and then fixing that problem. And that's how an analytical mind comes in, being able to break down those things and think logically through a problem and solve it. So that's a good skill to have. The other skill that's important to being a programmer is essentially not being afraid to learn. In fact, embracing learning and growth, because as long as you're in programming, there's a good chance that you're constantly going to be learning. I can't tell you how many computer languages I've had to learn in my days as a programmer. You're constantly looking at new platforms, new languages, or new language features. Everything's constantly changing, and if you're not changing the technology that you're using, maybe you're switching jobs and having to learn, go from learning about the mortgage industry to now all of a sudden you're having to learn about the travel industry or something like that. So if you're not changing the technologies you're using, then you're changing the business use of those technologies. So you're constantly having to learn new things. And in fact, I'd say that's one of the things that appeals to me about programming, because it's always changing. It's never the same thing. I'm always having to solve new problems. You're not solving the same problem over and over again. You're always trying to figure out how to take the tools that you have and solve new problems and make new things work, come up with new solutions or ideas. It can actually be quite a creative profession. People don't necessarily expect that. And the other thing people don't necessarily expect is that they have this idea that a programmer needs to be this person that has zero social skills and lives off of pizza pockets and Red Bull and 24/7. That's not the case either. In fact, no matter what career you choose to go into, it can be beneficial to have people skills and things like that. People have to work with other people, and so being able to be a good communicator with other people, to explain things, to speak in front of people even, can be advantageous. I've known people that were in programming and technology that used to be models, and been in other careers as well, and they bring some of those leadership skills or things like that could actually help them in their career to excel. So some of the things that I love about programming, I think I've already said, is just the fact that it's always changing and the fact that I'm always growing and that each day is a different day. Literally on the days, I manage people, so I don't just program. But on the days when I get to sit down and just focus in on a problem and do some programming, it's really a treat. And 4 hours, you can sit down, and 4 hours can just vanish, and it feels like it's been a half an hour. And you look up and it's been 4 hours or an entire day. And that kind of flow, getting into the flow and losing time is pretty cool. And people experience that in all kinds of different professions, from a surf instructor, or somebody that's working in a restaurant. It doesn't matter, any different kind of thing like that. You can find a way. There's a career out there where you can get into the flow, and it's just like time dissolves. So that's one of the things that I really enjoy about programming, and I definitely recommend programming as a career. If that's something that you think would be a good fit for you, I wish you the best of luck, because I think it's something where you can have a lot of great success, and you can have a fruitful life. So good luck.